Crying easily is one of the most misunderstood emotional traits. From a young age, many people are taught that tears equal weakness, immaturity, or a lack of emotional control. So when someone cries quickly, during conversations, movies, conflict, or even moments of kindness, they often feel ashamed of it. But psychology tells a very different story. Crying easily is not a sign of emotional weakness. In many cases, it's a sign of emotional depth, sensitivity, and an active nervous system that processes feelings honestly rather than suppressing them. Let's break this down in detail. Crying is an emotional regulation mechanism. From a biological and psychological perspective, crying is not random. It serves a regulatory function. When emotional intensity rises, whether from sadness, empathy, stress, relief, or joy, the brain signals the body to release that tension. Tears are one of the fastest and healthiest release valves available. People who cry easily often have nervous systems that move directly from emotion to release instead of bottling things up. Psychologically speaking, suppression requires effort. Expression allows processing. So crying isn't losing control. It's the body restoring balance. This is why many people feel calmer, clearer, or emotionally lighter after crying. The nervous system literally shifts from fight or freeze into a calmer state. High emotional sensitivity, not fragility. People who cry easily are often highly emotionally sensitive, but sensitivity is not fragility. Emotional sensitivity means you notice subtle emotional shifts. You react strongly to meaning, not just events. Your brain processes emotional information deeply. Research links emotional sensitivity to higher activity in brain areas related to empathy and emotional awareness. These brains don't skim emotions, they dive into them. That's why a harsh tone can hurt more than harsh words. A sad story can feel personal. A moment of kindness can trigger tears. This depth can feel overwhelming in a world that values emotional distance. But psychologically, it's a form of heightened perception. Crying easily is strongly linked to empathy. Many people who cry easily aren't just feeling their own emotions, they're absorbing the emotions of others. Empathy means the brain mirrors what others feel. So when someone around you is hurting, stressed, or vulnerable, your nervous system reacts as if it's happening to you. This is why people who cry easily are often good listeners, emotionally supportive friends, highly affected by injustice or suffering. They don't cry because they're weak. They cry because their emotional boundaries are more permeable. Emotional honesty versus emotional control. There's a big psychological difference between control and honesty. Some people cry easily because they don't override their emotional signals. They don't immediately tell themselves, stop, don't feel this, be stronger. Instead, their system says, this matters. Something needs to be released. People who never cry may not be stronger. They may just be more practiced at emotional suppression. Psychologically, long-term suppression is associated with emotional numbness, anxiety, sudden emotional breakdowns, physical stress symptoms. Crying easily can actually protect against these outcomes. Past emotional experiences. Lower the threshold for tears. Another important factor is emotional history. People who have experienced chronic stress, emotional neglect, repeated disappointment, burnout, long periods of being strong for everyone else, often develop a lower threshold for tears. This doesn't mean they're unstable. It means their emotional system has learned to stay alert. In psychology, this is sometimes referred to as emotional accessibility. Feelings are closer to the surface because they were never fully processed, or because the system learned that expression equals survival. Tears show up faster because the system is trying to protect itself. Crying is often misinterpreted as insecurity. Many people assume that crying easily means someone is insecure or emotionally dependent, but psychology suggests the opposite can be true. Crying requires vulnerability. Vulnerability requires self awareness. People who allow themselves to cry often, understand their emotional states well, accept that emotions come and go, don't see feelings as threats. Weakness would be denying what's happening inside. Cultural conditioning shapes how we judge tears. Our discomfort with crying says more about society than about psychology. We praise being strong, but usually mean don't show discomfort, don't make others uncomfortable, don't slow things down. But emotionally healthy systems are flexible, not rigid. Children cry because they haven't learned suppression yet. Healthy adults cry because they've learned they don't need to suppress anymore. Crying and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence involves recognizing emotions, understanding emotional triggers, managing emotions without denial. Crying easily often means the first two are already strong. The challenge isn't stopping the tears. It's learning how to self-soothe after, without shame. Emotionally intelligent people don't avoid tears. They recover from them without self-judgment. When crying becomes a problem, and when it doesn't, crying easily is healthy. Unless it feels uncontrollable and constant. It interferes with daily functioning. It comes with persistent hopelessness or numbness. In those cases, psychology sees tears as a signal, not a flaw, that deeper emotional support may be needed. But crying itself is never the problem. It's the message. Reframing tears as strength. People who cry easily often live in emotional truth. They feel deeply. They care deeply. They respond honestly. In a world that rewards emotional armor, this can feel like a disadvantage. But psychologically, it's a sign of emotional courage. So the next time you cry easily, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What am I feeling? And why does it matter?" Because tears aren't weakness. They're proof that your nervous system is still alive, responsive, and human. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman who cried easily, at work, during conversations, even when watching short videos online. She hated this about herself. Every time tears came, she felt embarrassed. She told herself she needed to be stronger, tougher, less emotional. One day during a meeting, her manager gave feedback. Not harsh, not cruel, just direct. While everyone else nodded, her eyes filled with tears. She stayed quiet, pretending everything was fine, but inside she felt ashamed. Later that day, she apologized for overreacting. Her manager looked confused and said something unexpected. "I wasn't upset by your tears. I was surprised by how much you cared." That moment stayed with her. She realized something important. She wasn't crying because she was weak. She was crying because she cared deeply about her work, about doing well, about meaning. Over time, she noticed a pattern. She was always the one people came to when they needed to talk. She was the one who sensed tension in a room before anyone said a word. She was the one who felt others' emotions before they were spoken. Her tears weren't proof of fragility. They were proof of connection. What she thought was her biggest flaw turned out to be one of her strongest emotional skills. So if you're someone who cries easily, let's reframe the question. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" or "What's wrong with me?" ask this instead. What does my mind need to release right now? Psychology doesn't see tears as failure. It sees them as communication. Crying means something mattered. It means your nervous system is still responsive. It means you haven't gone numb in a world that often encourages emotional shutdown. Yes, crying can feel uncomfortable. Yes, it can make you feel exposed. But emotional numbness is not strength. Silence is not resilience. And pretending not to feel is not healing. Strength isn't about never crying. Strength is about letting yourself feel and still choosing to move forward. So the next time tears come easily, don't rush to judge yourself. Pause, listen, and remember, you're not weak. You're emotionally alive. And that might be one of the bravest things you can be.